Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. In this, our January 17th, 2022 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including the first episode of Season 2 of Superman and Lois. We're going to be breaking down the big villain reveal at the end. We're going to be talking about upcoming episodes, new comic books coming, a big price for an auction of Action Comics #1 this past week, and so much more. We're also going to turn to you to ask for your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss, and to let you know how all that works and how you can get involved in tonight's show. It's no, it doesn't have a lumberjack chair. It's just Michael Bailey.
Yeah. How you doing, Steve?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Completely with that. It's cold. We had snow yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of rare for us, and we're having kind of a snowed cap, a cold snap that's coming through, which is Michael Ballack in the thing is saying liking the hoodie. I've had this thing for like 10 years now, so it's my winter coat because it's Georgia and it doesn't normally get this cold, but yeah, it's freezing right now, which is usually, you're usually the one wearing the hoodie during the winter time. So, but no, I am aghast at the big reveal at the end of the first episode of Superman and Lois. I was not expecting that at all, so I'm looking forward to us talking about that.
For sure. So how does everyone get involved in tonight's show?
Usually with Superman Homepage Live being all about Superman, we want to hear from the people watching us live right now on YouTube. And if we don't have a whole lot going on, which this week it's a 50-50 shot, we want to hear from you. So we start taking calls about halfway through the show. So how do we do that? Well, it's really simple. You're going to need Skype. Go to Skype, find Superman Homepage, and let us know that you'd like to be on the show. Now, a couple of things, and they're kind of important. One, don't call us, we'll call you. Seriously, just message us. We have had so many problems here over the last couple of months with things not working that, we're kind of holding our breath right now that everything seems to be working just as it should. So just message us and we'll get back to you if we can. And also, if you are watching Superman Homepage Live with an external speaker, please mute that because we are on a bit of delay and that can screw things up.
Yes, indeed. And for those who are tuning in live via YouTube tonight, we invite you to chat with fellow fans who are watching it in the comments there on YouTube. Post your comments, ask questions, chat with fellow fans. Michael and I will keep an eye on that, and we will react to those as the show goes on. And if you want your question or comment featured live on the screen, that's called a super chat. All you have to do is click the dollar symbol there on YouTube. A slider will appear on your screen. You decide on the dollar amount you're willing to donate, and we will feature your comment or question on the screen as the show goes along. And thank you to our patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. And thank you to our sponsor. Thank you to our major sponsor, Blazed Candle Co. They offer everything from dark sense of humour to positive uplifting candles. They even do custom orders. Place your order today at blazedcandleco.com or use the QR code on the screen for all of their websites and social media. Blazed Candle Co. Lighten up. Yes, and so as I mentioned, we've got a few things to get through tonight. Before we get into the TV side of things, I wanted to mention for our fans in the UK, although it's probably like 3 a.m. in the UK at the moment, so they're probably not watching us live, but for those who tune in after the fact, Superman the movie is going to be screening in London at the Prince Charles Cinema on January 23rd at 3 p.m. on the Sunday, and it's part of the Films on Film 35mm and 70mm presentations. So the 1978 classic will be available to screen on that Sunday, January 23rd. Admission is £14 for non-members or $11 for members and children. And you can purchase your tickets online through the Prince Charles Cinema website. So make sure you get onto that if you're in the UK and you've never seen the movie on the big screen or want to do it all over again.
Yep, that, as usual, jealous of people that can do it, but not as much anymore since I did get to do that back in 2018. But that's it's really cool. And yeah, it's like 3:30 in the UK right now. So if
Yes.
you're up and watching us, thanks. We appreciate the fact that you work nights.
All right, well, let's get into the television side of things before we get into talking about the episode itself. Ahead of the first episode of season 2 of Superman and Lois, the cast participated in a number of interviews to promote the show's return. KTLA 5 there in LA, in the US, spoke to Elizabeth Tulloch and Tyler Hoechlin about the tension between Lois and Clark in this first episode. Here is a bit of that interview from KTLA 5.
With Smallville, of course, still reeling from the big confrontation between Superman and Tyro. What does happen in season 2? We got to figure it out, of Superman and Lois. To spill all, it is Clark Kent and Lois Lane. There they are. It's Tyler Hoechlin, of course, and Elizabeth Tulloch. Nice to see you both. Elizabeth, is it true your nickname, Tyler, do you refer to Elizabeth as Bitsy when the cameras are not on?
Yeah, I've actually shortened it to Bits, but Bitsy can tell you the story of that one.
Yeah, Bitsy was my grandfather's nickname, and I actually, for the first 5 seasons of NBC's Grimm that I was on, only was credited as Bitsy Tulloch, and then I hit my mid-30s and thought I should go back to my actual biological name, Elizabeth. But if I introduce myself as Bitsy, and everyone on the casting crew calls me Bitsy.
I think Bitsy is the best name ever. And I think the best part about Elizabeth is there's so many derivatives. Have you ever been Betty, Beth, that goes on and on and on? But Bitsy's the best one.
Yeah, wasn't
So there's just a little bit of Bitsy, Elizabeth Tulloch, talking about her nickname, Bitsy. But you can watch the full interview at our website where they talk about the tensions between Lois and Clark in that first episode. It's interesting because, and in your review, I think you mentioned this, they kind of played up the tensions between Lois and Clark in the trailer to be, quite a bit more substantial than it was in the episode itself.
Yeah, I refer to it as it's clickbait for trailers. And they do that all the time. I mean, if you watch any promo for any of the CW shows, and especially the superhero shows, and even going like back to Smallville, look at some of the, next time on Smallville, and it's like the worst thing ever, and it's really not. It's trying to get you to watch the show. And because I've seen that so much, when I saw that trailer, I'm like, this is going to be part of the show, but yeah, this is going to be all resolved by the end of the episode, and it was. So, or at least worked out to where they're not at each other's throats.
Yeah, exactly. And the title of this episode was What Lies Beneath. Mm-hmm. And we weren't sure what that meant until we watched the episode and got to the very final scene. But we do know, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or the monster in the room. My background kind of gives it away a little bit, but at the end of the episode, we did see a fist bashing through rock. And throughout the episode, they kept getting the town of Smallville kept having rumbles and minor earthquakes, and then it kind of got bigger and bigger until at the end there we did see. And spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched the episode, but we are obviously going to be talking about it at length. Doomsday appears to be coming to Smallville. Yeah,
and I'm shocked. I was like, I kind of knew. One of the problems with not watching it as it airs, because normally I can't. My work schedule is just kind of weird, and it's hard to get home in time. So I usually watch it the next day on the CW app. But because I talk about Superman so much on social media, people who I follow and follow me will be like, oh, I know what this is. Oh, Mike this. Oh, Mike that. Oh, and it was just like, okay, something's up here. Something's big. And then it was really weird when I saw the fist come through. I'm like, is that really Doomsday? So I started poking around and reading some of the interviews, and Todd Helbing's, nope, it's definitely Doomsday. So I'm like, wow, season 2, okay, not wasting any time then. And I had a lot of This is going to sound so dramatic. I had so many complicated feelings. One, I trust this group to do it justice. It's not going to be exactly what it was in the comics, but like I said in my review, you can't adapt those comics. You can't, like, frame for frame, shot for shot, have, full redheaded, bearded Lex Luthor and Supergirl turning to goo when she gets punched in the face. You can't do that without a lot of setup, and we haven't had any of that. But they also sold me on the idea of Superman having a brother.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you know what? If they can do that, I'm going to give them a chance. And Helbing says they're doing something a little different. The one article I read got the history wrong because it said he was sent to Earth specifically to kill Superman. And that's not what it was in the comics at all. But the fact that you had that, like the end of the 4 issues of Superman before Doomsday started with the fist punching against the wall, the fact that that was like the entire episode, and then you have the fist breaking through, I'm like, yeah, there are some definite post-crisis people in that writer's room to get that little detail in there. And I'm throwing this out there right now. I think Doomsday and Superman are somehow linked on the show, and those are the visions he's having. It's now that whatever Doomsday is awake. It's connecting with Superman, whether it's because he was sent there to do it, which could be on the show, or because they're both maybe Kryptonian. He's kind of keyed in on him. But I think, and this is going to sound really weird, my favorite part of it was the fact that the logo was shaking.
Yes.
Like, it was hitting so hard, the logo shook. And I'm like, okay, that's a comedic bit. But no, after a really strong and good opening episode to the season, to hit us with that, it's just like, okay, that's different. And now I'm thinking about the statements Todd Helbing made that the villain, there's going to be several villains through the course of the season, and at one point, one villain's going to kind of go away, and another villain's going to come to the fore. It's just like, okay, so are they going to kill him halfway through the season, and then do kind of a funeral for a friend, Reign of the Supermen thing? And I'm like totally for all of that.
Yeah, no, look, it's really interesting. It's just, I didn't think that they would go there in season 2. I wasn't expecting this at all. Last week we were talking about what villains could they be bringing. We've mentioned Brainiac. We went through a lot of different villain names that the fans in our comments threw up. But Doomsday, I don't recall, was there at all. Now, there are people asking, didn't we see a Death of Superman image, previously? Was it either in Supergirl or in season 1 of Superman and Lois? I think it was in Supergirl. We saw an image.
It was the Crisis.
Yeah, during the Crisis. Now, because of Crisis, that could have been wiped out and never happened, and therefore the slate is clean and anything can happen. We still don't know whether or not this kind of fits in, where it fits in with the Supergirl, continuity. So anything is up for, as a possibility. You mentioned Todd Helbing's comments in some interviews. He told CBR.com, as you mentioned, that they'd like to do their own kind of spin on things. He said, we like to take established assumptions, established characters, find new ways to make connections, and reinvent a villain or a hero in a way that just makes it feel like you're watching a new story. And, some people might go, why do they mess with, stuff? And we don't want to see what's already been done. We want to be surprised and enjoy a new story. And I like what they're doing with Superman and Lois, how they kind of, it's familiar, but yet it's fresh.
Yeah, and with some of the other things that they're setting up that we'll be getting into when we get a little deeper into the episode, like it all could really work. Like, we could get a spin on what was done in the comics, but that's right for this show. I mean, when we look at the adaptations of this, you've got the Doomsday animated film, Superman Doomsday animated film that came in 2007. They that Doomsday was in the Justice League cartoon as a completely different thing altogether.
Mm-hmm.
First, he was talking, and then the Justice Lords lobotomized him. They also did an episode where Superman, quote unquote, died. He was actually sent to the future, but he died, and you got to see the funeral and all of that. And you had Doomsday on Smallville in a very, very different way. Doomsday on Krypton. I'm getting to BVS because I still feel in my heart of hearts they did not earn that. They did not earn in any way, shape, form, or fashion having Doomsday show up and having Superman die when they did. So then I have to ask myself, does it work for this show? Is it too early for the show? And I think because Hecklin has been the character since 2016, and we've seen him a couple of different times before Superman and Lois started, and then we had such a great first season that made you feel like there's a history with this character, even though we haven't seen all of it. And I think if done right, it's gonna work out just fine. It's gonna make for a really good season, and I think that I'm just really interested to see what the differences are going to be. What is their version of Doomsday going to be like? And when you look at it, what lies beneath? The next episode, the ties that bind. What was Doomsday when he first came out? He was all tied up. He had one arm literally tied behind his back. The thing in the mines. I mean, it's all kind of there now.
Yes. And talking about the things in the mines, obviously that's where he's buried. That's where he's. How we got there, we don't know, and it'll all be revealed. I think Helbing says that by episode 3 you're going to see him in full reveal. But as I showed there, that's the cover. That's behind me. Is the cover to Man of Steel number 18. Where Doomsday, as you said, is all bound up and with one hand tied behind his back, and he's covered, and we don't know what is beneath all that. But he does, Helbing that is, does say to EW.com that the fist banging against the wall and breaking through is their tribute to the comic book version, a reveal of Doomsday, especially with this page there in mind, where the fist just keeps banging and banging, and we keep getting that noise of him bashing through. Here it's metal, but because it was buried in a metal box kind of thing. But that was their homage towards that particular page in the comic book.
Yeah, I mean, it's just between this and the whole thing with Mitch Anderson, like everything is really uncertain, but I'm here for it. It's not one of those uncertain things where I'm like, this is gonna work out. They proved themselves. So, and I think really and truly, why would you go for Doomsday this early? You don't know where you are season to season. The fact that they got renewed is great. The fact that, as we're going to talk about later, the ratings for the first episode were incredibly good for the CW. But also the CW's up for sale. So, that doesn't mean that they won't take their shows and put them on HBO Max or somewhere else. But really and truly, we don't know what the future of any of these shows are. This could be their last season, and then they never get a chance to do it. So you don't want to do it in the first season because you really want to establish what the show is. And the interesting thing about potentially doing a Death of Superman story now is it's not just he and Lois are engaged. They've been married for years. He's got 2 kids. I mean, that's a completely different dynamic. I mean, you can hide Clark really easy. Oh, he's one of the missing, in Doomsday's Rampage. But I'm really excited. I think it's really amazing that they're not only doing it, but they're doing it in the 30th anniversary year of Doomsday.
Yeah,
which has got to be on purpose.
Yeah, you'd think so. Although, like you said before, Doomsday has been done in pretty much every iteration of the character's story in recent times. It seems to be the go-to character that they turn to when they're looking at some of the big bad villains. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they do it and how they play it. And with the special effects that they've been able to do in Superman and Lois, especially that first episode of season 2, it's very cinematic. So we could get a very Smallville, okay, was back in it. We're talking about early computer-generated graphics for television on a very low budget. What they're able to do now on television is, miles and miles ahead of where they were back then. This could be awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
Visually.
Yeah, I'm just really, really beyond excited. Like, I was excited. Well, to be fair, like I said in my review, I was nervous about the season premiere because the first season was so good. Expectations are so high, but it's almost like, and it's not all about me. I get that. I understand that. This is a show that's for everybody, but it's almost just like, were you worried, Mike? Well, what if we showed you Doomsday? It's just like, okay, you got me.
Now, John Patrick Van Pelt in the comments has asked a few questions about this first episode of season 2, so let's have a look through them. Says, did season 2 premiere pick up right where they left off in season 1? Yes, they pretty much did, with the scene of John Henry Irons' daughter Natalie appearing, but then they kind of finished off that scene and then jumped ahead. What was it, 6 months? And
no, 3 months.
3 months. 3 months. And so we've got Natalie, now trying to get to school and trying to fit in, and not having had any conversation with Lois, who is not her mum, but a different Earth version of her mum. So that was very awkward there. John's also asking, what ocean was that submarine located in that Superman was hearing? We don't know, but it's obviously somewhere in China, off the coast of China.
No, it would be Korea.
Korea. They were Korean.
It would be in the same general area, though, geographically.
So that was the issue that Mitch Anderson had, was the fact that Superman interfered and saved a North Korean submarine, which is obviously not something America would like him to have done. That was a bit of an issue.
Yeah, Mitchell Anderson wanted him to commit to have like a serious international incident.
Yeah,
instead of a minor
the submarine
incident
to Australia.
Yeah,
to America.
Yeah, like when he said that, he's like, "Why don't you bring it here?" I'm like, I don't know. What would it look like if Superman grabbed a North Korean submarine and flew, which that is one of our enemies at the moment. I'm not going to deny that they are a threat, but it's kind of an act of war, taking one of their nuclear subs and bringing of a sovereign nation and bringing it to United States I want to say airspace, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Bringing it to the United States. I mean, it's Mitch, dude. It's not all about you.
But that is an interesting dynamic because obviously, with Lois's father working in that position, he was keeping Clark's secret, and they were working together, and he had realized that there was more at stake for Clark being Superman. But with Mitch in that role and not knowing Clark's secret and not knowing where he keeps going off to, it's kind of creating a bit of tension, and he's created this. Are we going to call him the Superman of America?
I want to call them the Superman of America, and I bet you anything. Again, I make predictions all the time. 50% of the time I'm wrong. But I'm willing to bet that if they are going to kill him, that this is going to be Mitch Anderson's response of bringing these people to the fore, and possibly, like, you have all these people wearing Superman's symbol. So they're going to carry on after Superman's death, theoretically. In the meantime, it's amazing that Mitch Anderson thought, I'm just going to appropriate the symbol for a military use, and you're just going to be okay with it. Like I joked about with some friends. I'm like, Batman would never put up with that. Batman would rip it off their chest and say you're not worthy. But Superman's in a bit of a different pickle. And what I really like is that you see that Superman working with the DoD as much as he was only because Sam Lane was there. And Sam Lane had, even when he was kind of pulling Clark as like a tool, there was always in the background, this is my son-in-law. He's married to my daughter. He's the father of my grandsons. I take them fishing. It's just like that's a completely different dynamic than someone who doesn't know who Superman is in his civilian identity. And I liked their dynamic. I liked that we're exploring, is Superman only for America, or does Superman represent something bigger than that? And it like those are ugly costumes. Man, what is Mitchell Anderson colorblind in addition to just kind of a jerk? But I liked, it was really funny when I saw those two people with the Superman symbols on saving people during the earthquake. I'm like, are these Kryptonians? And then when it was revealed that they're part of that school that was hinted at last year, I was just like, oh, that's cool. That, they laid the groundwork for this, so it all makes sense. But now Mitchell Anderson is weaponizing them. And that was probably always the intent, but now you have somebody in charge that's willing to slap an S on these kids' chests and put them to work for America. It's just a really cool idea.
Yeah, and it's a way of touching on that subject of, is Superman for America or is he for the world, and people are discussing in the comments. It's a way of doing that story without being too political, because it's about, Superman would save people in a submarine no matter who they belong to, which country they belong to. Just like he saved those Russian cosmonauts in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. So, and he would able to speak their language. It's not about, he's all about saving people, So I like where they're going with this and how they're treading there, because Mitch Anderson is not being reasonable. If he was being reasonable, you'd go, well, he's got a point, but he's being pretty unreasonable in his approach.
Oh yeah, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
But to put yourself in his position, he has a mission. He swore a literal oath to defend the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
And when you get into that mindset, sometimes when you have a hammer, every problem is a nail.
Yep.
So when you have Superman, you just use him for your own ends. And it was really cool to see the North Koreans, once they realized that it was Superman that was saving them, they got all excited. They weren't thinking he was evil. They weren't thinking, oh, this tool of America. It's just like, yay, Superman saved us, which leads me to believe that Superman is we saw it all last season. He was saving people in other countries. He was going to China. He was going, I forget where that bank robbery was, but he was all over the world. So it's neat seeing a world where people like Superman.
Yeah.
And aren't afraid of him.
Yes. Indeed.
It's such a breath of fresh air.
For sure. Now, John's asking, what happens to the CW shows if CBS sells the CW? Where would we find Superman and Lois, The Flash, etc.? That's a question still to be answered, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Flash probably Mexico. Thank you, Michael. I think The Flash would end. I mean, it's had 8 seasons at this point, so it's probably run its course, and that's just me speaking as someone who doesn't watch the show. They've got a whole network. They've got HBO Max, and yes, it's a subscription, so it doesn't have. it doesn't really have the broader appeal in terms of getting people to watch the show as having it on a network. But who's to say that they don't put it on another network?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Or the CW stays as the CW and keeps some of those shows.
yeah, yeah. It, just because somebody else owns it doesn't mean that they still won't retain
Yeah,
those
those
the shows that they
properties.
have. Keep in mind that I was watching, I was reading up on this and watching it. The reason why the CW is on sale and the reason why the CW looks like it's losing money is just the creative accounting of Hollywood. Return of the Jedi has never turned a profit.
Mm.
On paper, Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, one of the most popular franchises ever, has apparently never turned a profit. And you look at that, and how is that? Accounting. So it's a way for the network side of things to not pay the actors budgets and all that, is to show, well, look, we're losing money, we can't afford to do this. It's all like a giant shell game
Yeah,
at this point.
exactly. And I mean, just like AT&T bought Warner Brothers, we still have, DC Comics. It's not like just
Yeah.
because the company comes in and buys. If anything, they're coming in and buying the CW because of the properties they do have. You don't just
Yes,
buy a
absolutely.
company and go, oh, we're wiping it all clean and starting from scratch. They're buying it because they see value in what they do have.
And there isn't anything to say that they can't put it on CBS.
Mm.
I mean, if the in a weird way, having some of those CW shows go to CBS would broaden the audience that CBS has, because
And that's where Supergirl started.
when you look at the shows on CBS, they're targeted towards a much older audience.
Mm.
And maybe this is a chance to kind of lighten that up, not lighten it up, but liven it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just like, can't be like 15 NCIS shows.
So true. And just quickly looking at the ratings for Superman and Lois, it opened with 1.1 million viewers and a 0.2 demo rating, which was improving on the average of season 1.
Yeah, no, the great thing about this show, and I think what it's proving to a certain extent, is that if you give people a Superman that isn't, this is where I get into trouble with the Snyder fans. But I'm just going to say it. The Superman as presented in the cinematic side of things is a very different take on the character. It is moodier. It is more introspective. It's more kind of deconstructing who the character is. But also, to a certain extent, it was always waiting for, like, okay, we've got the origin. It's different. We haven't seen him as the Superman we want him to see. The next time we see him, everyone hates him. And then he comes back, and depending on which version of Justice League you want to call as your own, he does come back, and he is more Superman-like, but we haven't gotten anything else. This show, right out of the gate, gave you not so much a more hopeful Superman, but just a more positive symbol of hope.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, for sure.
And you add in the fact that the dynamic between him and Lois is so strong, and you add in the family dynamic of it, and you're giving something that we've never seen before, which is Superman as the head of a family. And you have writing that is strong and very different from the other CW shows. I mean, and the cinematic quality of this series can't be ignored either. The Superman scenes in this episode were pure cinema. I mean, they had a lot, like the scene where he uses his super breath. I'm like, that's really cool looking. And you have that wrapped in this great drama where you're dealing with very real issues. The fight and the fight, I guess I should say, that Lois and Clark were having, and what had them butting heads. I cannot tell you how many times I have been in that exact same position where I'm like, I've got to give her space, but just tell me what's going on. I mean, it's so visceral.
It's so relatable.
Yeah.
John says, what would Bibbo do if he guest starred on Superman and Lois?
Oh, he'd be happy. He'd be nothing but I'd love to see what they would do with Bibbo. I'd honestly love to see Bibbo show up in Smallville.
It'd be good if they had a bar in Smallville. Do they have a bar in Smallville? I haven't seen
I'm
one.
sure that they need one.
Yeah.
I can see him taking his lottery earnings and moving to a small town and opening up a bar.
Yeah, and I could.
It's landlocked, but it bothers him.
And I could
deal with it.
I could definitely see what's Lana's husband's name in the bar?
Kyle.
Kyle, yeah.
Hanging out at the bar.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, we're going to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk about the show that followed Superman and Lois, Naomi, which heavily featured Superman, well, kind of, in its first episode. We'll be back right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
If you're enjoying Superman Homepage Live, then please like and share this video with your family and friends. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can click on the bell to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. You can also join our YouTube membership program, just click the join button below. Or you can become a patron and support our website by going to patreon.com/Superman Homepage.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Balmer, the voice of Superman and Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Insiders say Lex Luthor to cut nation's power. Superman overpowers Lex Luthor. Alienware powers the nation.
Alienware, embrace the power.
And we're back on Superman Homepage Live. And while I got the opportunity, there was like a little promo there asking you to like and share. If like we got nearly 20 people watching this live right at the moment. If you can all just give a thumbs up on YouTube right there now, that'll be fantastic, and just give us a like. That'd be awesome. It always helps when people do that, and we'll really appreciate it if you can just do that little small token. So thank you very much. I mentioned before the break about Naomi, which was a show that followed Superman and Lois' season 2 premiere. It's a new CW show. It's based on Brian Michael Bendis' character Naomi. And she's a massive Superman fan, runs the 3rd biggest Superman fan site in the world, according to the show. She, Superman is supposed to be I guess in this show, a fictional character, but they think it's a stunt when he shows up and that there's something. So it was really intriguing how Superman kind of was, interjected into this new story.
Yeah, I actually did not get a chance to see it, so this is all you. But I don't know. I mean, if they said she had the most popular, would we have been jealous? Maybe. I don't know. Who's number 2? I mean,
they mentioned number 2, and she was like, "Yeah, no, I'm going to get ahead of them," and so that was kind of it was nice the way that they brought it in, but. John's saying he skipped Naomi, but there was no reason to watch, even if Superman appeared on the pilot. Yeah, Superman kind of was like a blur, a special effect. But it's she runs a Superman website, fan site, does a podcast, video thing, and she's out there and seems to be getting powers of her own. So it'd be interesting to see how it's all kind of fitting in. I don't know if I'll continue watching it, but when I heard that Superman was heavily mentioned, I wanted to check it out. So if you haven't, it's on the CW app. It's for free. You can check it out.
It's got a similar vibe though to Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan over in Marvel, because she like they had her in the comics writing fan fiction about Marvel characters. So I like that DC kind of has their version of that. That's kind of cool.
So there you have it. Quickly back to Superman and Lois. The next new episode is titled "The Ties That Bind," and we have the promo trailer for that. I'm going to play that for you now. Here is the Ties That Bind, episode 2 of season 2.
You're having visions?
I know what it's like to have those kinds of attacks.
You can't go there by yourself. Let me go with you, just to watch your back.
You're more of a liability than a hero.
What are you seeing?
Destruction.
Like a planet being destroyed?
So there you have it. Superman having visions. And as you say, he sees destruction, and she's like, is it like a planet being destroyed? And we just, we're seeing the fist breaking through again. I like your idea of him having visions because in some way, shape or form, he and Doomsday are interconnected.
Yeah, they're linked. And there was some of that in the comic when they finally got around to giving Doomsday an origin. It's like he was drawn to Superman mainly because of the Kryptonian connection, and now you can kind of play with that and have it be more direct here.
So looking forward to that. That airs tomorrow night there in the US, tomorrow night here in Australia, and then the third episode will probably get the big reveal of Doomsday, so looking forward to that. But we do also have the official description, the synopsis for the 4th episode of this new season, and it's titled The Inverse Method, and the description reads, Lois and Chrissy are on a mission to find Lois' sister Lucy, and Jonathan and Jordan become more and more unsettled as Clark's painful visions continue. Meanwhile, Lana, Kyle, and Sarah share a family breakfast and discuss Sarah's upcoming
Quinceanera,
which is obviously a Spanish tradition of some kind. Lastly, you can go ahead.
It's kind of a party they give to girls when they're about 15 years old.
Like a coming of age?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, and lastly, Natalie and her father share a bonding moment. So Jenna Dewan is coming back as Lucy Lane in this episode. What did you make of the conversations surrounding Lois's mother in the first episode of this season?
I thought that was a really good twist, because usually Sam and Ella, and every time I say that name together, I kind of like, really? Sam and Ella? Really? Okay, whatever. Okay, good job, guys. Usually they're married or they're divorced, like later. But here it seems like Lois's mom just left. And you kind of, Bethany, one of the co-hosts on the Superman and Lois tapes, made a really good point that the reason why Lois kept giving Sam so many second chances last season is because she had to raise herself, but Sam was still their father, and it's this weird family dynamic, but it's the only parent that's still in her life. So it makes this Lois a much richer character, I think, because you always have her having problems with Sam. That's a constant. But just to have her mom just leave, there's a deeper story there, and I'm looking forward to that being explored.
All right, well, that's Superman and Lois. We're looking forward to the new episode, season 2 of episode 2 of season 2, and future ones to come. All right, let's move on to our fan favorite segment of the show. right, our fan favorite segment for last week had the question. What was our question, Michael?
What is your favorite Superman TV theme music or song? And Stephen Marshall wrote in say, I'm going to cheat and pick two. There's no rules here, Stephen. In live action, it is Save Me by Remy Zero. It's so iconic and gives me goosebumps anytime I watch an episode. Then in animation, I love the Superman the Animated Series theme, which also gives me goosebumps. In fact, I don't think Superman, whether it be animation or live action, has ever had bad music.
Nice point. We obviously just had the Superman the Animated Series intro as part of that fan favorite segment intro. So here's a bit of the Smallville theme. There it was, Somebody Save Me by Remy Zero. Thank you to Stephen Marshall for that answer. JP Rocha wrote in, he said, my favourite song from Superman's TV history has to be the Adventures of Superman main theme, since I would not count the Max Fleischer Superman short films, since they appeared in theatres originally. I have to go with the Adventures of Superman TV series theme, and here is that classic intro from the 1950s Superman TV series.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who...
There it is, part of the intro for the 1950s Superman TV series. I love that.
John Patrick Van Pelt. Excuse me, John. Sorry to screw up your last name there. My favorite Superman themes are from Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, Superman the Animated Series, and Smallville. My favorite Superman music is, of course, the Superman theme by John Williams, along with Superman, It's Not Easy by Five for Fighting, and Kryptonite by Three Doors Down, and Happy New Year to everybody at the Superman homepage.
Thank you, John. Here is a bit of the Lois and Clark opening theme. There you have it, Lois and Clark, a good one too. Next up we had Ryan Ignatius Pratt, who said my favourite Superman television music would be the main title from Lois and Clark, Superman, The New Adventures of Superman by composer Jay Gruska. To me, it's somewhat reminiscent of the classic Superman theme by John Williams, yet also able to musically stand strong on its own. It's an essential part of the rich legacy of Superman music. An honourable mention goes to Wherever You Will Go by the band The Calling. Ever since seeing it used in a Smallville Season 1 episode, Metamorphosis, I have associated with Superman. It was, for example, a song that played in my head when reading the final chapter of Our Worlds at War 2 decades ago. Not surprisingly, it holds a special place near the top of my Superman playlist. Nice.
So it's interesting that a couple years ago, 2 decades ago, pretty much almost, I was poking around like when YouTube was first starting up, and somebody posted like theme songs from 80s shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an assignment for all the viewers right now, both watching us live and all that. When the show ends, or if you're watching us on YouTube later, open up another YouTube window and type in main theme The Colbys. The Colbys was a spin-off of Dynasty. And it's had a theme song by Bill Conti that after you get through the initial little Dynasty flourish, it is almost beat for beat the Lois and Clark theme. I was listening to it, I was like, that sounds exactly like Lois and Clark. And so I did an experiment one day where I queued it up in my ears and I was watching the opening credits, and it almost matches perfectly for any of the opening credits. So that's your
Wow.
assignment
And
for next week,
Colby's
Gil.
spelled Colbies.
Colby's Colbys.
Okay, so apostrophe S.
No, just the
No.
Colbys, like a family name.
Okay.
Like,
Colby's. Okay. Yes,
the
yes,
Baileys,
yes.
you know.
Yeah, I'll get you. I'm with you. Colby's. Okay, cool. Who's our final one? Actually, no, we've got two more.
No, we got two more. We got Michael Ballack, who wrote my favorite Superman theme from a TV show. It's the theme from the 50s Adventures of Superman. It always inspired me. It's a good choice, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. We've already played that one, so thank you for your input. And lastly, we had Justin Suarez, who's listening live with us tonight. He said, as well as some of the other people who've read their messages tonight, Justin says, my favourite tune that got me out of bed on a Saturday morning was the Super Friends opening intro. Just brings memories of my childhood and those yummy bowls of cereal. Classic. Yes, here is the Super Friends intro from 1973.
In the great hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the world's 4 greatest heroes, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Superman, Wonder Woman.
So there you have it. That's just a bit of the intro from the original Super Friends cartoon series. Nice one, Justin. Brings back a lot of memories for me too. So thank you everyone for your fan favorite intro, fan favorite examples this week. I love going back and revisiting some of those themes. That's really cool. What is our new fan favorite question for this week, Michael?
Who is your favorite Martha Kent live action actor?
Yeah, and why? Let us know who it is and why you've picked them. What is your who is your
and why
favorite
is it
Martha?
Annette O'Toole? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so there is our new fan favorite question. Just played it for you, John. So you just asked the question, what is our next fan favorite question? Thank you for that, John. And here is the email address that you need to use to send your entry for next week's fan favorite segment, info@supermanhomepage.com. Thank you to everyone who responded this week. All right, let's get into it. This week in history. Here is your intro.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bonds of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
You try to get us. There we go.
Oh, very good. Sorry. You're sharing your screen, but I still can't see everything, so I'm playing guessing. Going back to 1942, we have Action Comics number 46, which had a Superman story titled "The Devil's Playground." I don't know why that makes me laugh, but you wouldn't have that after the Comics Code. 1952, we have Adventure Comics number 174, which had a Superboy story called The New Lana Lang, which, of course, we have some head turning here on the cover. Jumping to 1962, we've got World's Finest, number 124, which had a Superman-Batman story called The Mystery of the Alien Superboy, which has a fun... Well, at least on these World's Finest covers, they're actually doing something and not playing sports and stuff, which is usually what happened in the 40s. In 1972, we got 2 books. We got Justice League of America, number 997, which had the villain Starbreaker, I think that was his name, in it. And you also had Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 120, with a couple different stories. One of them was Who Killed Lucy Lane? That's that's not ominous. 1982, we had the Phantom Zone number 4 with a really cool Gene Colan cover there. And we also had Superman Family number 217. That is the Earth 2 version of Metallo, which was one of those weird things where the Golden Age version appears after the Silver Age version. 1992, getting right into my feels, my wheelhouse as a Superman fan. You got Superman number 65, which is part of Panic in the Sky. I think that's one of the more iconic covers of Jurgen's run.
Love it.
Superman number 178 came out in 2002. Speaking of iconic covers, we got a Superman with an eagle on his shoulder and an American flag in the background. And finally, comic book wise, going to 2012, we have Supergirl number 5 fighting, that legendary Supergirl villain, Rain. I mean, it has to be. That's what they told us when she came to the TV show. In the real world, on January 16th was the birthday of John Hamilton in 1886.
Wow.
Yeah, I read that. I was like, wow, that's getting farther and farther away. January 18th is the birthday of Kevin Costner. Also the birthday of, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Anche Treyu, maybe I screwed that up, who played Feora in Man of Steel. She was born in 1981. January 21st is traditionally recognized as the birthday of Pete Ross, and it is a Man of Steel birthday week because on January 22nd, Diane Lane was born in 1965. And that is this week in history. Yes, she does. Steve, she's 5 years older than you.
I know. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All right. So thank you for this week in history, Michael. Speaking about historical things, Action Comics number 1 is obviously the historic first issue and appearance of Superman in comic book form, or in anywhere actually. The first appearance of Superman. This blemished copy of Action Comics number 1 with this rocket stamp. Yeah, well, the little rocket stamp that was placed there on the cover by the 13-year-old who bought it back in 1938 when it was first on sale and kept it ever since, or his family did, went on sale at Heritage Auctions this past week and sold for over $3 million.
I'm amused that this is now going to be forever known as the rocket stamp Action Comics number 1. Like, he wanted everyone to know that was his comic.
That's it.
I got the rocket stamp.
I got the rocket stamp. I mean, imagine that 10-cent investment and ends up being $3 million.
Yeah, and, even after the auction house takes their cut, you got to pay taxes on that. That's still going to be a good chunk of change. So
indeed. So
I don't know how I'm going to pay that off.
And just quickly, for comic books that you can probably afford this week, they are Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow number 7, which is available in a variant cover right there. Also Superman Son of Kal-El number 7, which is also available in a variant cover. And then the trade paperback of Crime Syndicate is also out this week. So that's what you can look forward to reading this week in comic book form. And that pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Superman Homepage Live. I want to thank everyone who was part of the comments there on YouTube. Thank you for your participation with the show. And thank you for all the thumbs up that you gave us on request. And thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, Tina Murray, and thank you to our main sponsor, Blazed Candle Co. And to you, my co-host, Mr. Michael Bailey. Stay warm. Thank you very much.
I am planning on doing that. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure as always, Steve.
And remember, if you missed part of the show, tuned in late, want to check out this show all over again in full, you can do so both at our website and our YouTube channel. But Michael and I will be back next week on Monday, January 24th, for another edition of Superman Homepage Live. We'll hope you'll join us then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. On behalf of myself and Michael Bailey, thanks for watching Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.